Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm midway doing some work on the Volvo 480. It's about time to get back on track with this and try and get some of the jobs done. I'm going to show you what I've been up to and give you a bit of a progress update. Well, yes, the Volvo updates have been a bit sparse. Now, I think last time I told you that I'd been putting the rear brakes back together. You can see I've got them nicely covered up because I've put the new discs and pads on last time. You can see the handbrake cables still need reattaching. Those are just currently in roughly the right place. I've put the new ABS sensors and cables on. They need fastened up, as do the brake cables, things like that, but the rear are all done. Now, one thing that I did make a mistake is on the front brakes. I had the front brake caliper off, so whilst I was bleeding the rear brakes, I went and popped the piston out of the front brake caliper. So I took the opportunity, and you'll see it's had a bit of a clean up and a little bit of a coat of paint. So I've cleaned up the front caliper. I've actually rebuilt it. So popped the cylinder out, took the seals out, redid the seals, cleaned up the piston a little bit, and got all of that back to there. You can see I've just finished using my brake kit just to pressurize the system. It's a one-man brake bleeding kit. Pressurize the system up, release the pressure, get rid of the air, get a little bit of fluid through the line, and I've just been checking, and the brakes have been pumping up quite nicely, so that's good. Now, what I thought I would do whilst I was here is take a look at the timing belt and water pump. Take you in for a closer look, because what I've done is, you can see the timing cover is off. So that there, the toothed belt, is the timing belt, and this here is the accessory belt. And you can see probably the accessory belt is quite badly cracked. The timing belt doesn't actually look that cracked, but it's quite old and I think it's worth replacing it. So the first thing that we'd have to do is release the tension off the auxiliary belt, which you do on this with the alternator. There's a little adjustment bolt down there. You can just about get to it through the cable in the wiring loom, and that should take tension off the auxiliary belt. We can then take the aux belt off, and that'll allow us to sort the timing belt. And you can see here, you can see the top of the timing belt on the main cam, the tensioner just there. It's all a bit rusty. Now I think I've got a replacement tensioner as well. Not sure if I've got a replacement guide as well, but I now need to check, because I also want to change the water pump. So I'm going to take a quick look at the manual, see where it all fits together, and work out what the best way of doing this. I'm not sure if I want to take the engine off its engine mount, because that is a little bit involved, and I think I might be able to get in there and get the belt in once I've got the tension off, hook it round, obviously once I've got the engine positioned. So I'm going to take a look and see where the locking points are on this, which is the Volvo 2 litre, but it's a Renault based engine. So I'll take a look at that and work out. What I did do earlier is I started to have a go at this bolt here, because this needs to come off, and that can be really quite tight, but luckily it's managed to come undone using, well, it's my park side impact wrench, which, although it doesn't have a huge amount of power, it managed to persevere, and it's slackened that off. I've actually done it back up again so that I can put a socket on, and so I can actually turn the engine, I can't do it one-handed, turn the engine so that I can set everything into the correct place to change the belt. You'll see I've got the Haynes manual out because I've been taking a look at the water pump and the renewal, and I've realised the water pump isn't driven by the timing belt on this. Probably not going to be able to see it, but in the middle photo here you've got the alternator up here. On mine I've got the power steering pump at the front. That is the water pump, and that's the main drive. So if we take a look, we can see that's the water pump right there. So once we get the tension off the belt, we should be able to get that and withdraw it. It's going to be a bit tricky because of this piece of bodywork, but in theory that should then come out. We may need to take the pulley off and extract it that way, but that looks doable. So I think the main thing is get the belt off, get the water pump out, get the main drive pulley off, and then we can also do the timing belt once we've set it all into position. I think finding the position and setting the locking bolts for the timing is the main job to do next, because once that's set we can then start taking belts off and it'll just make sure everything's going to stay exactly where we want it. Well, that happens quite often. I've decided to kind of work backwards a little bit because I made a slight mistake in that I had taken the timing cover off, as I mentioned. I've now put it back on again because there's a very key thing that helps set top dead center, and you can probably see it. That marker there with the arrow actually helps you line it up, because inside, and the chances of you being able to see this I would have thought are fairly limited, but there is a tiny little mark that sits inside there on the centre crank, and when it's lined up you can see it through that tiny hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the crank, get that lined up, and then I know that we're at top dead centre. And now that's lined up there, what I can now do is use an 8mm bolt to insert it into the locking hole, which should be just round the front of the engine. I'm going to go underneath and take a look at that now, and hopefully we can lock it in place. Let me take you in and show you where we're talking about. What we're doing is we're looking just below the identification plate, just be able to make it out. That is the cover. It is, what size is that? Something like 18, I think. Yeah, 18. It's an 18mm socket, so I've already given it a little bit of a crank so it is loose. And then what I'm going to do is give it a bit of a clean up before I completely remove it. So I'm going to blast a bit of brake cleaner down there, give it a bit of a clean, and then we can get that out. It's not perfect, but it's better. I actually cleaned up the identification plate as well, so you can see B20F208, and it's got a number 5613. I don't know if that means that this is the 5613th engine. No idea. Not sure what that is. I'll have to try and look it up. Now hopefully you guys can now see. There we go. So this is the cover to our timing locking point. Take that out, and if I now get my bolt, let's just see if I can leave you there. I'll get my 8mm bolt. Let's bring this in. Oops. And that's gone all the way in, you can see, which looks pretty convincing that that is locking the engine. So I now feel we have the engine locked, which is good news. And I think that's probably as far as I'm going to go this time. The next bit is going to be, what I'll probably have done is taken the auxiliary belt off and then we can do the water pump and then the timing belt as well. So I think that'll be coming up in the next video. Hope you've enjoyed this quick update on the Volvo 480. Please stay subscribed and pop a like down the bottom if you enjoy watching content like this and the other car fixes on the channel, and I'll see you next time.